I've seen so often how people skip a few instrumental things in building the foundation of their business. And if you ever want to exit, or even if you want to build a massive portfolio, understanding the branding of your company, your investment portfolio is really critical. And to achieve this, it's really essential in creating a brand blueprint. When you're defining your brand identity, you want to consider emotions, you want to consider perceptions. This is a feeling. What do you want your brand to invoke when someone is seeing you in the marketplace? Branding is one of those unrecognizable returns because it doesn't hit on the P&L quickly, but doing this right will actually save you on all of your other marketing and sales channels and will help you acquire customers and keep customers more easily. And just remember that branding goes far beyond a logo or some tagline. It's about creating experience. Authenticity, consistency, and understanding your customers are really the cornerstones of creating an exceptional brand. If this takes longer than you thought, or you tried this once and you said forget it, just remember that it will take time, but the dedication and commitment is worth it for building a sustainable company. And if you're not innovating something new, but you're just doing something that exists a little bit better or a little bit different, the way that you establish that is by creating a compelling brand. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the show. I am so glad that you're here with me today for this episode as we continue on our series of business topics for entrepreneurs, founders, and investors. And today is going to be no different. Now, the content, I promise, is going to be worth a listen. And I am going to encourage you to stick with it through the end. And if the audio sounds a little bit different than it normally does, if you hear a little bit more echo, just forgive me for that, because I am recording this not in my typical studio. I'm actually remotely recording this in San Del Jose, Cabo, which is one of my favorite places in the world. So I am here in Mexico recording and wanted to make sure that in case there are some glitches that you hang in there, because I think this is going to be a very valuable episode for everyone to listen in, because I see so often, I'm working with entrepreneurs, I've started my own companies, I've seen so often how people skip a few instrumental things in building the foundation of their business. And understanding branding and how it really applies to your business. And if you ever want to exit, or even if you want to build a massive portfolio, understanding the branding of your company, your investment portfolio, your real estate investments is really critical. And as we've seen the business landscape change, branding, although it has been instrumental for 30, 40, 50, probably 60, 100 years, it is really a crucial component today in building a successful and a lasting company, because having a well-defined brand not only is going to distinguish your business from the competition, but it also conveys your unique value proposition to your target audience, who you want to become customers. And to achieve this, it's really essential in creating a brand blueprint. Now, what is that? It's just a strategic plan that outlines the key elements of your brand, your business identity. And no, this doesn't just mean personal brand. This is your business brand. And these steps are really what's needed to establish a powerful and cohesive presence. When I look at what people do wrong in marketing, it's because they have not established a brand blueprint to have a cohesive presence to their audience, and they're getting lost in the shuffle. So spending some time on this, if you haven't already, or if your business has really grown and evolved over time, doing this over again to make sure that it either aligns with the one that you've done originally when you first started, or to make sure that it aligns with where you're going and your target audience that you have now. This can be so invaluable to making sure that you're successful and sustainable in the long term. So step one is defining that brand identity. Now, before I dive into the details of this, we have to understand first what your brand stands for. This is defining your core values, your mission, your vision. And remember, when you do this, this is also going to help drive your employee culture and the types of customers that you're going to attract and do business with. When you're defining your brand identity, you want to consider emotions, you want to consider perceptions. This is a feeling. What do you want your brand to invoke when someone is seeing you in the marketplace? And then this foundation is really what's going to serve for all the other branding efforts that we're going to talk about. So it all starts with that brand identity. If you haven't done that first, that is your first step. And as we roll into number 2, we've talked about this on other prior episodes, but I don't know that we've talked about it as it relates to branding. But number 2 is understanding that target audience, that customer base. Effective branding is resonating with the target audience. And what this does is it helps you connect with the customer more quickly so that you don't have as much marketing and sales efforts. The way that you understand your target audience is through demographics, preferences, behavior. You can also achieve finding out a lot of this information if you already have existing customers and you do feedback surveys so that you really get to understand who your customer is. This insight is really going to help you tailor future branding efforts that will align with that audience, their desires, and their values. It's really, really a key piece. And then step 3 is once you've done those 2 things, you want to understand what is your brand message. And this should just very succinctly communicate your value proposition. It should resonate with your audience and clearly explain what sets you and your business apart. This will be the guiding light, if you will, for all branding efforts and will also tie in with all of your marketing and sales. Now, number 4, this is what most people jump to. This is what most people think that branding is. Design your visual identity. That would be number 4. Most people skip 1 through 3. They jump to this. Your visual identity is your logo, your colors, your fonts, your typography, the design elements you use. These are the visual elements that would be consistent when you're in your marketing, communicating with customers, leading your team. This is your brand's personality, if you will. And also what's kind of coupled in that is your brand guidelines to ensure that there's consistency across all of the platforms. So if somebody finds you on Google or on social media or on your website or on a billboard or at a trade show, that all of these color codes and logo usage and typography rules and design principles are all consistent and cohesive, which helps the mind, right, the visual of the buyer to quickly brand recognize you, and it creates credibility through that consistent model. So if you didn't do the first 3 and you jump to this, at least you got one of them done. No harm, no foul. You can move on to step 5, which I swear I feel like this one takes so long to get right, especially when you're crafting content for social media to bring awareness about your services or your products. And this is your brand voice. And the reason I think that this gets so mixed up is because oftentimes we're delegating these things, as we should, to other people on our team. And if you have not done the deep dive on your brand voice, this can get really lost. How do you define your brand voice? Well, is your brand formal? Is it friendly? Is it playful? Are you very professional? Are you aspirational, or are you relatable? Having consistency in your tone, in your language, in the words that you use will foster a sense of familiarity and trust. And I can tell you personally, when I came from behind the scenes of building businesses to the front of the scene teaching business, it was so hard to teach my brand voice to vendors and employees. And it's still something of all the things, I probably pull back a little bit and make sure that I approve a lot of it, because it can really get lost if you don't have the right people that understand this messaging. Number 6 of developing this blueprint is building the online presence. We are in the digital age. All companies are using modern marketing, digital marketing practices. So your online presence is often the very first point of contact that potential customers will see you. And having a user-friendly, responsive website that is up to date, I feel like I could hit this point over and over again with a hammer. I actually have my hand in a fist as I'm talking about this because it is such a frustrating point of contention for me. How many people have non-responsive or unfriendly websites, or ones that are completely out of date? Make sure that when you are developing your online presence, that you have your branding elements seamlessly integrated across all of these channels. I promise you, doing this work in the beginning will help you save on your customer acquisition cost. It will help you retain customers in the end, but oftentimes it's missed. And I get it. Like, it's easy to do because we don't know what we don't know. So oftentimes when we're doing this branding work, we think that there isn't a specific ROI because it's not quite as measurable, right? We can't just run an ad, see what the results were, and then know if that was a good conversion rate or a good choice of funds. Branding is one of those unrecognizable returns because it doesn't hit on the P&L quickly. But doing this right will actually save you on all of your other marketing and sales channels and will help you acquire customers and keep customers more easily. Number 7, you're going to do all of that hard work, getting your website responsive, developing all of these social media platforms and channels. So the key that you need to do is create consistent content. Having content play as part of your marketing is a really pivotal role in building your business brand authority and connection with its potential audience. By creating valuable and relatable content for them that aligns with your brand message, your brand voice, it will resonate with your target customers and again, help browsers and visitors become customers more quickly, which will then foster brand loyalty because a successful brand not only attracts new customers, but like I said, it retains existing ones. Focusing on delivering exceptional products, services, and of course experiences, as you hear me talk about all the time, building a loyal customer base can amplify your brand's reputation through positive word of mouth because word of mouth marketing, referrals, are one vertical within customer acquisition that's really tough to scale. But when you do your brand blueprint right, you will create loyalty, which then increases your referrals and your word of mouth marketing. And last but certainly not least, just like business is dynamic, customer preferences are as well. So you always have to be monitoring and adapting, regularly monitoring the effectiveness of branding efforts, just like your marketing efforts through metrics like engagement and conversion and feedback and referrals are all necessary in order for you to stay relevant in your market. And just remember that branding goes far beyond a logo or some tagline. It's about creating experience, an experience that creates a feeling that resonates with your target audience, your potential customers. And by taking the time to develop your brand identity, by understanding that customer, and by implementing a branding strategy, it can help you pave the way to greater business success and really have better customer relationships. And if you read Wealth Habits, my book, I had a whole chapter in there dedicated to branding and my experience as a teenager inside of the Ritz-Carlton and the feeling they create for their customers. And there's no surprise that it is synonymous with luxury, but they didn't do that by chance. It is very intentional from the way that their properties are designed to the development and leadership of their staff, to the people that they hire. Successful companies, they have managed to create exceptional brands because they put a priority on this branding blueprint and they do not deviate for quick sales and flashy marketing tactics. Now, I always mention the Ritz-Carlton, but there are other companies that I know that you know that are phenomenal examples of exceptional brands. And then I want to unpack some of the things that they do that small business owners everywhere can emulate. First and foremost is Apple. And guess who Apple went to when they were creating their brand? The Ritz-Carlton. Apple sent a lot of their key employees to the Ritz-Carlton to study exactly what they do. I talk about this in Wealth Habits as well. And what they decided to focus on were 2 key points: user experience and simplicity. And these 2 things are things that all of us as business owners, entrepreneurs, and founders can focus on, because focusing on the user experience, regardless where that experience happens, if it's physical or if it's online or on a website or via a landing page, entrepreneurs can prioritize by providing user experiences that meet and exceed their customers' needs. And then of course, simplicity. In our ever crazy world, the more streamlined your products and your messaging can be, the more memorable your brand will become. Now, another one is Nike. They've got the slogan, just do it. It's been around forever, but it's their brand spirit. It speaks to determination, to athleticism, to athletes. And what we can do as small business owners and as entrepreneurs is understand how important it is to cultivate a strong message. Developing that clear, motivating, concise message that resonates with your target audience, that's part of creating an exceptional brand. And then also leveraging storytelling. I just did a podcast episode, I think a week or two ago, when I talked about testimonials and user-generated content and how it's one way that you can really cut through the noise of your competition by sharing stories of your customer journeys and the value that they received by using your products or services. Leveraging stories is another way that Nike has really connected with their audience. Third, we've got Starbucks. I mean, they have built a global brand around this idea of third place. It's a comfortable space between work and home. And anyone that goes into a Starbucks knows that's exactly what it is. If you have a local Starbucks that you go to, most of the baristas know your name. They remember your drink. It's almost like the work version of a bar. They have that unique environment, and you can do that whether it's a physical space or a digital space that offers an experience beyond the coffee. Another thing that Starbucks has done really well in their brand is community engagement, engaging their community and really having their customers foster the sense of belonging. Again, these are things that may not necessarily show up as a conversion rate on your balance sheet or on your P&L or on your printouts for your CRM or your ads manager, but these things all create retention and referral business, which, as we know, it's always easier to get a customer to buy from us more frequently than it is to acquire a new one. So engaging with your customers is critical. Next, we have Airbnb. Their branding was all about belonging anywhere. And all business owners and entrepreneurs can relate to this, because really what they did was they just found a very niche target. They identified a very specific niche and they catered offering and branding to that audience. And then what they're really phenomenal at is personalization, creating those customer experiences that make their customers feel valued and seen. And last but not least, Patagonia. That's another brand that is exceptional about really targeting who their customer is. They advocate for a cause. They focus on quality over quantity. They've really built this image on environmental activism and quality outdoor gear. And this, again, is something that we can always look to these large brands and how can we emulate them in our businesses and adapt their strategies to our current company. And always remember that authenticity, consistency, and understanding your customers are really the cornerstones of creating an exceptional brand. And building a strong brand will take time. So if this takes longer than you thought, or you tried this once and you said, forget it, just remember that it will take time, but the dedication and commitment is worth it for building a sustainable company. And always remember that branding and marketing are two distinct but interconnected concepts in the realm of your business. And while they will share very common goals and they often work in alignment with each other, they have very different focuses, as branding is the process of creating that distinct identity, the perception of who you are, what your business is, what product or service that you deliver, and how it relates in the mind of your customer. Remember that branding is far more than a logo. It is shaping how people perceive you and your business. Marketing, on the other hand, is strategically promoting products or services to generate interest, leads, or sales, but branding is the foundation and identity that all marketing activities build upon. And if you're not innovating something new, but you're just doing something that exists a little bit better or a little bit different, the way that you establish that is by creating a compelling brand. Okay, guys, that's it for today's episode. I hope you loved it. If you did, please share it on social media and tag me, and I will see you in the next episode.